others to also be, or Klal Yisrael as a whole, to the world, that's what we're supposed to be. What's our job? Teach Torah, right? We're supposed to teach Torah. How do we teach Torah? By example. And the non-Jewish world, when they're all going to come at the end of days, and they're already coming, they're already banging down the doors, they're saying, teach me Torah. I want to know about Torah. My wife told me there was a speaker of a Schwartz, a woman who converted, and she was African American, and very inspiring story that she grew up in a Christian environment, and she just didn't hit her right. You know, the story, she looked up that it said in Parshat Noach that Noach sent out an orev, and then he sent out a dove. And when she came to school, they said, no, it was only dove, because they want to use every analogy, lahavdil, elef avdalos, to yoshka. You know what I'm saying? No ravens. Ravens are yucky. It couldn't be that. It's got to be a dove. But actually, ironically, the orev does represent the shivim umos. It's very ironic that she saw that, because really the orev are the 70 nations of Noach, and who's the dove? Am Yisrael. It's unbelievable. So she her soul intuited that there's something wrong here. You're presenting yourself as the dove. You're not the dove. You're just not. Yonasi Tamasi. You're not Am Yisrael. And so she ended up being part of Am Yisrael, which is a story in itself. But Klal Yisrael has to be living, breathing Sifrei Torah to teach the world, to be available to teach the world the Das Hashem. Okay. Now, equipped with that piece of information, we can then what I want to do is, before we go back and answer the questions from the Parsha, I want to show you how this concept of living, breathing Sifrei Torah impacts us halacha lemaisa. Now, one thing, everybody knows that everything is based on a minyan. Every davar shebekadusha is a minyan. Well, what minyan is very important? What's the most famous minyan of all time? Tefillah, right? To daven. And in order to daven with a minyan, you need 10 Jews, right? Well, if Jews are associated with Torah, which part of the Torah is associated with 10? The Aseret Dibros. So essentially, when you get 10 Jews together, every 10 Jews is a set of luchos. What's inside the Aron Kodesh? The luchos. Shuva Hashem, Rivas Alpha Yisrael. That's the bottom line connection. By the way, it goes perhaps deeper than that. When Yisro suggests to Moshe, you got to teach Torah to everybody over here, you got a bad system because everybody's running to you, he breaks them down. And what's the smallest unit? He goes, Sarei Alafim, people in charge of 1,000. Sarei Meos, people in charge of 100. Again, multiples of 10, right? Then there's Sarei Chamishim, also a half, right? Because half the Dibros, they're 5 and 5. Ben Adam Lakam, Ben Adam L'Chavero. I guess you had some Ben Adam L'Makam experts and some Adam L'Chavera experts. Again, a multiple of 10. And then finally, Sarei Asaros, little minions. Because the minion is the basic, what's that? A little steeple. But each one is a miniature Aron Kodesh. So comes the question, halacha l'maisa, what if you have 9? You only have 9 Jews. Can you add? Can you count the Sefer Torah? This came up a number of places, all right? And let's go through that for 1 second. The question arises, the Rosh discusses this in the Gemara in Brachos, okay? He says, can you substitute a Sefer Torah? Because they had Kiddush HaChodesh. They used to do Kiddush HaChodesh, they used to use 10. So they had 9. So there's a suggestion, let's use an Aron Kodesh. And the Gemara rejects that because it says, but that's not acceptable. It's just an Aron Kodesh. It's a Torah, but there's no person there. The other issue was, can you take a little boy to be the 10th person? All right? Both of those are rejected, la halacha, but the Ramah brings down, and this is he says this is used to be used only in extreme purposes, right? Only in extreme purposes, is if you take a kid with a Sefer Torah. a kid with a Sefer Torah, okay, maybe that's good enough. Now I'm going to explain what's going on over here. Since every Jew is a walking, breathing Sefer Torah, right? You might have thought that you can just replace a Sefer Torah with a Jew and you'll have the 10th man, right? Maybe that's good enough. Or if you have a kid who's not holding by Torah mitzvos, but he will be eventually, that's good enough. And the Ramah says, no. If the kid is linked to Torah, that's when he's significant. But a Torah in itself is not going to be enough. Because that's not the point. We want Hashras Hashchina. The Torah is already a Torah. You got to bring me 10 Jews. You got to bring me Sarah. You got to bring me 10 living Aseres Adibros. So 9 Jews in a Sefer Torah is not going to cut it, ever. The shaila is, if you're really stuck, can you take a kid with a Torah, because he does certain mitzvos, there's a mitzvah of chinuch that's incumbent upon him, and he's got to do certain mitzvahs, maybe it's good enough. So we say, the Mishnah Berurah Paskins, they're not into it. But, let's say it's Yom Kippur, Nebuch, or Rosh Hashanah, and there's no minyan, whatever, do you then say you're not going to daven? Tefillah b'tzibur? It requires a great halachic posek, but there is this at least theoretical idea that you could have it. So what do you see? It's in a very rare extreme circumstance, and you have to ask a shayla, and a 9 out of 10, no. Well, I'm saying 9 out of 10, that's ironic, right? 9 out of 10, no. But I know cases where shuls relied on it because they just didn't have a minyan in the entire town. There was not a minyan in the whole town. So they decided that they were going to do it for a while. Not so simple. Now, in addition to that, there's a mitzvah for every Jew to write a Sefer Torah. Why? Why is that? So the Sefer HaChinuch says it's because you can't rely on other people to teach you Torah. You've got to know the Torah. You've got to be you've got to be a Sefer Torah. And how are you going to know it? You write it and you have it. You combine the Jew with the Torah, and the Jew becomes a walking. He doesn't know the Torah. He can't be a Sefer Torah. He can't execute the Torah. Okay.
You could only write, to fulfill that mitzvah, you can be part of writing a Sefer Torah?
Yeah, there's a big discussion.
Or letter?
Or chumashim, a print chumashim. Oh, that's another thing. That's what the Ramah really says about the boy. Because there is a Yerushalmi that says give the kid a sefer. Some people say, well, give the kid a chumash. 9 adults plus a kid with a chumash. So they say, no, not a kid with a chumash, a kid with a Sefer Torah. Right? Maybe, yeah. It's just like he has to hold the chumash according to some. Okay, so the idea being, to answer your question, again, what was your question?
Could you be fulfilling the mitzvah of writing a letter?
It's a very, very widely discussed topic. And some say by printing chumashim yirotze, some say by you can join another person's mitzvah. But let's face it, ideally, you want to write the Torah. You want to write a Torah. Now, in addition to that, there's a very curious halacha in Even HaEzer, in the laws of marriage, in the very, very first siman. And that is, can you sell a Torah to make a wedding? It costs about as much as a Torah to make a wedding. Maybe more. It depends where, Maybe in Bnei Brak it's a little cheaper. Or in, I don't know where. But, you're talking about $25,000, $30,000, $40,000, maybe upwards.
I know you can sell a Torah to be
5 minutes?
Right?
What? Oh, 50,000. Yeah. And there are Sifrei Torah that sell for 50,000. Really? Which is not so simple. And that would be also understood. What are you exchanging? What right do you have to sell a Torah? There are certain possibilities. Put Pidin Shvuyim aside. Well, if a Jew is a walking, living, breathing Sefer Torah, then why can't I redeem a Jew with a Sefer Torah, because I'm not really losing anything? You understand? because the Jew is a Sefer Torah. So even though I don't have that Torah anymore, somebody's going to have the Torah. And it doesn't mean you can sell it to a guy, but he's going to sell it to another Jew. In the meantime, I've got this Jew back, and he can be a living, breathing Sefer Torah. Similarly, you can sell a Torah to marry off a Yasaim who's got nobody. According to some poskim, even a Yasoma, this is discussed, even though she doesn't have the mitzvah of Puravu on her, but since there's another mitzvah called Lo Sohu Bara L'Shevet Yitzar, the world is meant to be populated, and women have that mitzvah as well. You gotta get married. The world wants you to produce if you can. So you can even sell a Sefer Torah for a Yasoma, according to some. And why? So again, if we understand that, look at the net sum game. Okay, a guy gets married. Getting married, he's going to have a bunch of kids. He'll have a boy and a girl. Now, those boys and girls, in order to fill the mitzvah puravu, have to have boys and girls. You got to produce 2 kids, a boy and a girl. That's how we paskin. And the boy has to the boy has to produce either a boy or a girl, and the girl either a boy and a girl, and you're good to go, right? Well, what if they have a lot more kids? Every single one of them has a chance to be a living, breathing Sefer Torah. So, did we lose by selling a Torah to create a Jewish family? No, maybe we gained a whole bunch of Sefer Torah. That's my personal understanding of it. Because it's a very strange halacha otherwise. Now let me give you another, even more bizarre halacha, which you wouldn't believe. When somebody converts to Judaism, right, and their family converts with them, is there any halachic relationship? I'm not talking about d'Rabbanan. I'm talking about d'Oraita, between the ger and his family.
Actually, no. Because they like become a new person.
That's right. Ger shenola. Ger is like a katan shenolad. It's like a newborn baby. In theory, if a brother and sister convert, they can marry each other. Because there's no yichus. There's no familiar identity. D'Rabbanan, we don't do it. But d'Oraita, so now, let's think on the d'Oraita level. A man is married to his non-Jewish wife. He's got 2 kids, a boy and a girl. They're all goyim. They get interested in Torah, and they all convert together as a family. Did he fulfill his mitzvah of pru'ervu or not? Logically.
Logically, yes.
Why logically yes?
Because the mitzvah of was given to Israel too. And it was given before. When Hashem created the world, he already said pru'ervu.
Okay, but we know that as a Jew, he's got an obligation to create Jews. So now that he's a Jew, did he fulfill his mitzvah, or does he got to start all over again? Logically, you would say, got to start all over again, right? No, you do not. A goyish family that converts to Judaism, if there's a boy and a girl and parents, they, and the husband and the wife, l'chora, also her obligation of lashevet yitzar, that the world was meant to be created, lashevet, to be populated, have fulfilled their mitzvah. How in the world can you understand that halacha? That halacha is like one of these Rubik's Cubes. How do you understand that? So wait. With this understanding, you can. The Rav Soloveitchik points out that when you make a Torah, there's 2 steps. One is you have to be ma'abed da'or. You have to prepare the klaf. That's a mitzvah. It has to be prepared in a certain way so that it's ready to be written on. And the second part of the mitzvah is to write the letters on it. Both of them are part of the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah. So, I'll use this understanding. Again, it's homiletic, but it could very well be the depth of the understanding here. The non-Jew and his non-Jewish wife who produced these 2 children and then became Jews, which part of the mitzvah did they already do? They prepared the cloth. Now what remains is Talmud Torah. And in fact, that's what Soloveitchik says also, is that there's 2 mitzvahs regarding children. There's chinuch. This is his analogy. So just like writing a Sefer Torah. You first have to prepare the cloth and make it smooth and nice and everything good. And teach it to have good midos and teach it all, halavai. as a parent, I will tell you. I don't know if this generation is even possible to do that. You just got to pray for siyata d'shmaya. So you prepare the cloth as best you can, scrape it down, make it smooth, remove the parts that are crusty and irritating, and then. So there's a mitzvah of chinuch and there's a mitzvah of Talmud Torah. You got to get the kid prepared. L'chanech oto, get him into the swing of things, and then he'll be able to mekabel the osios. So I would like to use Rabbi Soloveitchik's analogy to perhaps explain this very complicated halacha. At least the cloth they prepared, the human being, the mensch. And now we'll put on, that's my thought, okay? For what it's worth. You can dismiss it, but it's my thought. In addition to that, okay, when a person sees a Sefer Torah that has fallen or is being burnt, what's the obligation? What do you have to do?
Fast.
And if you're there on the spot, besides the fasting, you have to tear kriya. You have to tear kriya. If you see a Sefer Torah in front of you being burnt, you have to tear kriya. Similarly, if you're in the company of a Jew who passes away, whether you're related or not related, whether you're someone sitting Shiva or not sitting Shiva, for that person, you must tear kriya if you're there at the Shas Yitzias Neshama, at the time that the soul departs. Again, because a Torah and a person, in this sense, are analogous. And there's a halacha that reflects this. This is truly amazing. Just like we don't sell a Sefer Torah, the Tashmishe Kedusha of the Torah also have sanctity. So the cover for the Torah is also a very important thing. Let's say you have Nebuch HaMeis mitzvah, and they don't have Tachrichim. So the community has to. So they found an old, worn out, white Sefer Torah cover, let me say a linen thing. Can you make that into Tachrichim? And the answer is absolutely yes. Because that's the Geniza. Just like the Torah needs Geniza, the human burial is analogous to Geniza of a Sefer Torah. And so much so that what do you do with all the Geniza stuff? You bury it. You have all the Chevra Kadishas. They give them a righteous person is being buried. They start filling in the books. What's going on over here? That's nothing to do with this. No, it's everything to do with this. You're saying that just like this is and we have that also, the concept of luchos v'shivrei luchos munachim b'heichal. When a Talmud Chacham loses their, Nebuch suffers from a loss of their Torah, Alzheimer's, something along those lines, Rachmanu litzlan lo aleinu, you have to give them kavod, because they're the broken luchos. There's the luchos that Moshe got on Yom Kippur, that's the second luchos. Those are whole. But the original luchos, from Hashem, broken. And you have to, and they both, it says luchos, v'shivrei luchos, menachem. That's one opinion, that they were both together. Ramban says they might have been separate, but there was one entity. Okay. So given that, let's go back and understand a little bit about our parsha. The Levium are 22,000, because they're the osios of the Torah. They are the best of Klal Yisrael in personifying the mitzvah of Ksiva Sefer Torah on their essence. And that's why their job is to stand in for the Bechorim until such time as they're ready to stand in and be their own Sefer Torah. We're not alleviating their obligation, because Chas v'Shalom, Yisroel, Yesh Shishim Ribo Osios LaTorah. No Jew is obviated. It's like, Lahavdil, they used to say among them, back in the days of conservadox and this and that, we had the rabbi keeps all the mitzvos, and he does it for us. They would want a very religious rabbi. The rabbi keeps kosher, the rabbi keeps Shabbos, the rabbi learns Torah. I pay his salary, he's good enough. That's how they used to look at it. Many, many people looked at it that way. They knew you have to have a Torah. You have to have a real Torah, not nonsense. They were serious. I said, I can't do it, I don't want to do it, I want to do it. So that's the idea. The Levi is holding for them their ideal until they're ready to step into it themselves. But not to walk away from it, but to use his role model. So that's why there has to be 22,000. Now, why were the Bechorim 270? Oh, wait a second. So that's why it's attached to Sefer Bamidbar, to the Parsha Bamidbar and not later, to show you that the redemption of the Bechor, which is in Parshas Bamidbar, is connected to the selection of the Leviim, and particularly which Leviim? Kahos, that carries the Torah, who are in great danger of their lives because it's a very difficult thing to accomplish, and that's why their numbers are only 22,000, because we need 22,000 genuine, holy Talmidei Chachamim so the Torah doesn't burn them alive. Because if you're not sincere with Torah, right, what do we say? Lamasmilim ba sam hamaves. If you're using Torah for personal gain, the Torah is like a poison. It's dangerous. Chas v'sholom. Like my meaning ba, it's samachayim. It brings you life. So the Leviim have to be those ones that have to be so perfect and on their game and sincere. That's connected to Parshas Bamidbar because that's the story of why they were chosen to replace. If I didn't have that connection, I would just say, okay, they replaced them, and now here's the story of their work. No! The story of them is because of the danger that they step into to carry the Torah for us. So Kahas was broken off and put in Sefer Bamidbar. That's what I'd like to suggest, according to the Kli Yakar. Now, why 273? So 300 was the number, right? I got 300 because Levi is 3, right? Levi is the third one. I get it. And sorry, Mayos, whatever you want to say. But 273, what's missing? If you take 300 and subtract 273, what number do you get? 27. What's significant about the number 27? Well, besides being 9 times 3, which is your 9th person missing the 10th. Get it? So the relationship between 273 and 300 is that they round out the 10th. You get it? They round out the 273 into 300. That's one way to look at it, 9 times 3. Or you can say 26 is Hashem Hashem. You know, in the Mishkan, where the Leviim are going to be, the name of Hashem is there, the 26-letter name of Hashem, which is only pronounced where? In the Beis HaMikdash. And who is the one who is presiding over that? The Kohen Gadol, who's the extra one. So as if to say, Rabbi Isai, that's where we're going. You're not ready for it. You're missing your 27. You want to be Kohanim, and you need to be Kohanim, and you have the potential to be even Kohen Gadol, but you got the 27 is missing right now. In the meantime, who's going to fill it in? The Leviim. That's my thought. All right? So now, given that idea, how much...
Excuse me, that's why they were so little less in birth?
That's what Kli Yakar says. Because we had to emphasize that they represent the Hashras Shechina. And we'll talk a little bit more about the V'hi ben Soa as a separate entity. You know how many letters there are in that tiny parsha of 2 psukim? 85 letters. Pei, hey, peh. If you have a piece of scroll that was prepared to be a Sefer Torah, and you only wrote those 2 psukim on it, it already has Kedusha Sefer Torah. Because it's a little mini Torah, right? And it says the story of the Aron Kodesh connecting to the Osios of Klal Yisrael, and it's the makor of the 22,000 Jews who have to step up. So it's kind of like the Levi's Torah, like the little Levi Torah, the how shall I say, the embryonic Torah, that then is considered already the first step towards a full Sefer Torah, which always expands outwards. All right, I just want to finish with a story. Did I answer all our questions? And if I didn't, you can yell at me and demand answers. I'll end with just this comment and a story that obviously we have to aspire to being walking, living Sefer Torah. And that has many, many ramifications that we have to really, really consider. One is we got to know the halachas. Because if you don't know it, it's not inscribed upon you. You don't know what you're doing. We have to learn the halachas. We have to know the halachas that are relevant to us. That's number one. And number two, we have to be teachers and role models. That's our job. From Jews, teachers and role models. So our behavior has to be kavod to the Torah. In fact, we don't have time for this now, but the Rambam in Hilchos Deos, and maybe I will talk about that another time, he prescribes the conduct of a Talmud Chacham. You have to dress more modestly, nice clothes, not flamboyant clothes. You have to eat like a mensch. You got to do business like a person. Why is that in Hilchos Deos? Hilchos Deos is for every Jew. The answer is very simple. For every person, and we find this across Shas, the idea, make yourself a Talmid Chacham. Doing work on Tisha B'Av. Talmidei Chachamim don't do work on Tisha B'Av, the Mishnah tells us. So the opinion of the Gemara, the opinion of the Mishnah says, every Jew should make themselves a Talmid Chacham for this, aspire to more. So Hilchos Deos is when you refine your thought, the end game is that you become a Talmid Chacham or Talmidah Chachama. You reflect. That is, it's not separate from Hilchos Deos. Their point is to be a role model to where you get to. So if you follow Hilchos Deos to the nth degree, you're going to end up there. And that's going to be the end product. So of course it's part and parcel. That's my thought also. Okay. Anything you don't like what I say, you can blame it on me. Now, last thing was a story that I found from the Bluzhever Rebbe. This is an amazing story. The Bluzhever Rebbe, as we know, survived the Holocaust. He was a very key figure in the spiritual rebuilding of Am Yisrael. You read Hasidic Tales of the Holocaust by Yafa Eliach. You'll see every story about him and how he gave faith to people, as many of the great, great Rebbes after the Holocaust. And there's a story about him. The story goes like this, that goes as follows. The last stop in the war that the Bluzhever Rebbe had was the Yanoka death camp. There were 3,000 inmates there. He was one of the 11 people that survived out of 3,000. Him and his minion. On January 13th, 1943, a capo came into the barracks where the Rebbe was and says, I summoned him. He was thinking he's getting tortured. But the capo, who was Jewish, said, no, I came to give you a message. He gets a crumpled envelope with a piece of paper that somebody had scribbled a note. Note read, Dear Rabbi Spira, may you enjoy a long and happy life. They have just surrounded the bristle factory in which 800 of us have been working. We are being put to death. That was in the other part of the camp. Dear Rabbi, if you should find worthy of being saved, and if you're able to settle in Eretz Yisrael, then have a little marker put on our holy soil as a remembrance for my wife and me. No matter where you will make your home, which we did in America eventually, perhaps you can have a Sefer Torah written in our memory. I'm enclosing $50 American, in which I hope the messenger with whom I'm sending this note will give to you. I must hurry because they've already ordered us to remove our clothes. When I get to the next world, I will convey your greetings to your holy ancestors and will ask them to intercede on your behalf so that your days will be long and happy. Your servant, Aryeh ben Leah Kornblit. I know there's a Kornblit family here. I don't know if they're related. So, and he said also, my sister's children are living with a Gentile family near. Please take them away from where they are and place them with a Jewish family. Whatever happens, they must remain Jewish. My wife, Sheva Bas Chaya, was shot yesterday, and an old $50 bill falls out of the envelope. From that day on, the Rebbe carried his letter with him wherever he went. In 1946, at a public gathering in New York, the Rebbe read the letter to the crowd and appealed to everyone to help him fulfill Mr. Kornblit's words. Though few among them present were well-to-do, virtually everyone responded generously. A Sefer Torah was written and placed in the Aron Kodesh of Yeshiva Torah Vodaas, where I received smicha. A few days prior to the Sefer Torah's dedication, the Rebbe held Mr. Kornblit's letter in his hand, with tears streaming down his cheeks, said, take note of the spiritual strength God gives his people. Here is a man whose wife was already killed and himself was about to die, yet he found in his heart the strength to think of others, not only his sister's children, but those who would never know and who would hold this Sefer Torah in their arms. How good is our lot, how beautiful is our heritage. I'll add one last piece. I have the privilege of having a Sefer Torah in my home, written by a Jew who was not raised in a Torah home, but was moved and inspired by some of his firm relatives to write a Sefer Torah in memory of his parents. And he needs a refuah shlema. And this young fellow, a young man, and he's very, very sick. His name is Yochanan ben Rachel Perel. And he's a good, generous person, and I often brought him to Rav Pam, the Rosh Yeshiva of Torah Vodaas. We would do tzedakah there with him on Purim, and he has many merits, especially because of Sefer Torah. And I ask you to daven for him for a refuah shlema. Okay, shkoyach.
Did you say his name again, Yochanan?
Yochanan